The room was silent, save for the faint ticking of the clock on the wall. Marcus sat alone in the dim light, his hands trembling as he stared at the torn photograph in his lap. It was a family portrait, him, Clara, and the two kids, Ethan and Mia. They were smiling, but the edges of the photo were jagged, ripped apart by the same hands that had once clung to him for comfort. His heart ached, not from the loss, but from the clarity that had finally come. He had given them everything, his time, his love, his life. And yet, in the end, they had thrown it all back in his face. But tonight, everything will change. Tonight, Marcus would stop pretending, and they would regret it. Marcus had always been a man of principle. He believed in hard work, loyalty, and standing by the people he loved. But life had a way of testing those beliefs, and Marcus was about to face the greatest test of all. It all began when he met Clara. She was a widow, raising two young children on her own. Ethan, her 4-year-old son, was a bundle of energy, always racing around with his toy trucks and asking endless questions. Mia, just a toddler, was shy and clung to her mother like a shadow. Their father, a firefighter, had died in the line of duty, leaving Clara to navigate the storm of grief and single parenthood alone. Marcus saw her struggle, saw the exhaustion etched into her face, and he made a decision. He would step in, not because he had to, but because he wanted to. For years, Marcus poured his heart into that family. He worked long hours as a construction manager, but he always made time for Ethan and Mia. He attended every school play, every soccer game, every parent-teacher conference. He made sure they had new clothes, warm meals, and a roof over their heads. He wasn't just a provider, he was a father, and they called him Dad. But as the years passed, something shifted. Ethan, now a teenager, began to rebel. He stayed out late, ignored curfews, and dismissed Marcus's advice with a roll of his eyes. Mia, not far behind, started mimicking her brother's behavior. The once affectionate little girl now rolled her eyes at Marcus's attempts to connect, treating him like an unwelcome guest in his own home. Marcus tried to brush it off, telling himself it was just a phase. But the disrespect grew louder, sharper. One night, Ethan came home past midnight, reeking of cigarette smoke. Marcus confronted him, his voice calm but firm. "You live under my roof, you follow my rules." Ethan smirked. "You're not my real dad. Stop acting like you own me." The words hit Marcus like a punch to the gut. He turned to Clara, expecting her to intervene, but she just sat there, silent, her eyes glued to her phone. That silence spoke volumes. The final blow came a few days later. Mia had left a mess in the kitchen, and when Marcus asked her to clean it up, she shrugged. "Why don't you do it? It's your house, isn't it?" Ethan chimed in, his voice dripping with disdain. "Yeah, you're not even our real dad." And then Clara, the woman he had loved and supported for years, added her own dagger. "They have a point, Marcus. Maybe you should back off." That was the moment Marcus's world shattered. He had given them everything, his time, his money, his love, and in return, they had reduced him to nothing. That night, he made a decision. He would stop. Stop giving, stop caring, stop trying. If they didn't want him as a father, then they could see what life was like without one. At first, they didn't notice. Clara picked up the slack, funding their shopping trips and fast food runs. But Marcus knew it wouldn't last. Clara wasn't made of money, and without his support, the cracks began to show. The shopping trips became less frequent, the new clothes stopped coming, and Ethan and Mia found themselves taking the bus to school. The reality check hit hard. One morning, Ethan missed his ride and had to sprint to catch the bus. Mia complained to Clara, who snapped, "Because I don't have the money for that right now." Marcus heard it all, and for the first time in months, he smiled. The final confrontation came one evening. Clara cornered him in the kitchen, her face red with anger. "You're being a child, Marcus. What kind of man punishes his family like this?" Marcus stared at her, his voice steady. "Why do you never defend me? Why do you let them treat me like this?" Clara's mask slipped. "Because I agree with them. You were never really their father." The words cut deep, but Marcus felt a strange sense of relief. Finally, the truth was out. He was nothing more than a convenience, a walking paycheck. And he was done. In the weeks that followed, Marcus quietly prepared his exit. He documented the threats, the destruction of his belongings, and the hostile environment. He met with a lawyer, filed for divorce, and moved out, taking only what was his. The bank accounts were closed, the money was gone, and Clara was left to face the reality of life without him. The messages started soon after. At first, they were full of anger and blame. "You're a coward, Marcus. A real man doesn't abandon his family." But as the weeks turned into months, the tone changed. "I'm sorry, Marcus. We should have treated you better. Things have been hard since you left." Marcus didn't reply. He had learned the hardest lesson of all: never let people take you for granted. Some only realize your worth once you're gone. And by then, it's too late. Moral of the story: never beg for respect. Never let people treat you like an ATM. And most importantly, know your worth. Because when you walk away, they'll realize what they've lost. But by then, it'll be too late. This story is a reminder that love should never come at the cost of your dignity. Share it with someone who needs to hear it today.